Welcome back to the GP Productions podcast. Okay, welcome back to the show, and I have a returning guest on the show today, a man that you may recognize from the last time where we talked about some spooky stuff and we talked about hauntings and UFOs and different things like that. It's Mr. Dave Spinks. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So where are you right now? Because that's a good way to start.
Well, I can't say the exact location, but I'm at a haunted location that is actually my girlfriend Serenity Jenny's case that she brought me into. She's a psychic medium and so much more. I mean, can't get into all her titles at this time, but yeah, she has cases too. And so what I do sometimes, I'm known for this, is I've delved pretty deep into some of these haunted locations, and I spend a significant amount of time in them. And this one is one of those cases that it has so many layers that we're going to have to get down there and peel the layers of the onion apart to try to see if we can figure out what is the root cause of all these tragic events that have happened in this small area. And I'll give you a little bit of the background. There's numerous suicides, murder-suicides in this area, pedophilia, satanic worship, and all kinds of other drownings, just a huge amount of tragic incidents in a very small area. So this house we're in is linked to some of that. Also, this is kind of our base camp because we have to go out into the woods and everything else and investigate. And there's this area has everything, it seems like, it has reports of strange creatures like Bigfoot. It has UFO sightings, and it has just a ton of reported hauntings and paranormal activity going on all around the area. So, this is just one of those locations where it's just chock full, really, of unexplained activity.
Yeah, and all those things you mentioned are things that you specialize in yourself. And how long have you been there now, if you can say?
We kicked this off actually on Halloween night on Monday. So what better time of the year to kick something off like this when reportedly the veil is as thin as it gets, and we had a really cool bunch of experiences and some eye-opening stuff and some dark stuff. So what we delved into a little bit is a little bit different this time. I had some people come in with us. We split them into two groups, had them using various types of equipment, different equipment, and then we came back together at the end of the night, and a lot of it matched up to what each other was getting. So that's what that's what I look for in this, because that gives it a lot more validation when you have, say, 12 people from varying backgrounds, and most of these people are professionals, counselors and psychologists and EMTs and police officers and so much more. So we brought them all together at the end of the night, and we compared notes, and lo and behold, a lot of the stuff was matching up. So, that's pretty compelling when you get right down to it.
Yeah, and I know we can't delve into too much information on where exactly you are and what you're doing, but for you to get an outcome out of this, firstly, how long would you expect to be in a said location? And secondly, what's the ideal outcome from it?
Well, the end goal of doing this is to try to cleanse and bless and heal the land, right? So we can get rid of any of that negative haunting type situation that's going on for these people, because it's affecting the whole community to the point where people are losing their loved ones. And we feel, doing what we do, that some of this, not necessarily all of it, but a lot of it may be linked to demonic entities or negative entities, tragic events. Those type of entities feed off of this type of tragedy. Drownings, suicides, murder suicides, and there's not just one or two. I mean, there are several incidents that it just doesn't make sense. It's way too much than than what we could even accept as the norm of an area. This is a small rural country area. Not that
Mhm.
many people live right in this general area. So, in a big city, you might say, well, it's more apt because there's a lot more people living in that area. But here, this is a very rural community, and that many incidences is just not in the normal range of things at all.
Mm. So you mentioned there negative entities, and what you mean is different to what I'm going to say. But the last time me and you talked, I was sending you a few screenshots of these assholes fucking writing underneath videos and saying all this bad stuff about you. First question is, why do you think people do that? And the second question is, how
Well,
how, how do you handle it?
Well, that comes with the territory being in the public eye. Some
Yeah,
people do not like what we do because it may deal with their own personal loved ones, or there it comes down to one word a lot of times, and that's just simple jealousy. Because they think they might want to be where I'm at, doing what I'm doing, but they haven't reached the level or the I don't know what word you want to use for it, the notoriety that I have at this point. It could go various ways, but trust me, I've been called some of the worst things out there, and so have many other people that are in the public eye on TV and everything else. It just people are hateful and nasty, and they're jealous. That's what it boils down
yeah,
to a lot of times. And I'm not going to apologize for who I am and what I do and the hard work that I put into this. So, hey, they can say whatever they want. It's just it is what it is. Be happy,
yeah.
man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, focus on your own shit or whatever. But the way
Yeah.
I always say, what I always say to people is, like the more you put yourself out there, the more it's going to happen. And what that
Hmm.
means on the positive side is that people are watching what you're doing, and that's the most important thing.
Right.
If people are watching a video of me and you doing an interview, thanks very much for the view. It's another one on the notch.
That's right. Yep. And there's,
Yeah.
really in reality, there's really not no such thing as negative publicity because people are going to come and check it out because they're going to get their popcorn and they're going to say, oh, he's not what they're saying he is. They're full of it, because everybody, most people know my reputation and I'm a stand up guy. So, I do, I do what I say what I do for the most part. I mean, and I really try hard to help people. I've helped a lot of families in my 30 plus years of doing this stuff. Helped a lot of locations, and I'm going to continue to do so. Whether they don't like me, I really don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit. I just laugh at them and really because there's no skin off my back. If they want to sit in their own shit, as we call it, and be a negative person, that's on them. That's on them, not on me. So they can
Yeah.
accuse me of whatever, but whatever. People that I could get hundreds and hundreds of people to say, well, he really helped me and my family. So, but I don't need to do that because I already know it, and it is what it is.
Do you ever get hate from any religious groups for what you do?
Oh no, not at all. Actually, I
No.
filmed exorcisms years and years ago for the church. I reach out for help from clergy from time to time and pick their brain, and then they pick my brain too. Well, what do you think about this? Have you ever experienced this, or what, or so on and so forth? And you know, it's all about good intent, man. I mean, it really is trying to help people. That's all we're doing, and yeah, sometimes people's family members get in, like, especially with my Willow's Weep house, I mean, that's a whole nother conundrum with the prior
Yeah.
family from years ago. And, their mom was involved in a death from that house and everything, but it's public record too. It's not like I'm bringing up stuff that's top secret or anything. It's all public record. Anybody can look it up. Anybody can talk about it. The news could talk about it. Anyone. So, um, when I bought that house, that history of that house and all the things that happened there became mine. So I'm allowed to talk about it. It's
Mm.
not like I'm doing anything. And they accuse me, well, you're making money off of our parents' deaths. No, I'm not. Um, I've had the house closed for over 3 years and have not let one single investigator in there. And literally, I've lost tens of thousands of dollars by doing that. So they can say what they want. It doesn't matter. It's my property. It's public information, and I do what I do when I want to do it. So and I even reached out an olive branch to those folks and said, hey, I want to put a plaque, to your mom and them all in there, and they pretty much told me to F off. So I tried, try to make them a part of it, bring them in on it, but they didn't want nothing to do with it. So that's on them, not me.
Yeah. What's the status with the house? Because we talked last time about it. You haven't done anything with it since.
Well, I've been in there filming stuff and whatnot, but the house is closed to the public. I haven't let anyone in there since right before COVID kicked off. So because I feel that it's such a negative place that I don't want people. I'm scared, basically, to say I would feel horrible if someone got a really bad attachment and something bad happened to somebody. As a responsible location owner, I feel it's my job to make sure that doesn't happen. For the most part. Now, to say that I'm not, I might not do some more stuff in there. I'm not going to say no. I'm never going to do stuff in there again. But right now, I'm working on the second book about the house, because there's a lot more during many people's investigations, including my own, that hasn't been put out there yet. So, we're working on the second book. There's some other stuff in development for it. But eventually, the whole idea is to document from many other investigators and myself things they've experienced in that house. And then eventually the house will be torn down and either burnt or torn down and the land cleansed. So that's the whole ultimate goal. So, but it's on my timeline, no one else's, so it's my property. I invested in it. I bought it to have my own paranormal lab, as we talked about before, and that's what I'm doing with
it. Yeah. One of the things that caught my eye the other day was your latest book, the West Virginia Dogman.
Yes.
And we were kind of going to talk about that book and maybe there we go. Bit of product placement.
Yeah. A little selfless plug there.
Yeah. You have to do that. Yeah. So look, for people that don't know, what is this book about? So
Dogman's kind of a big topic in the last few years. Werewolves, dogmen, the whole 9 yards. And I've actually investigated a few cases of those in West Virginia myself. People call me or email, hey, I had this thing. I saw this thing on my property. It looked like a freaking werewolf that stood 8 feet tall, or whatever the case. So I go out and check it out. I haven't really found a lot of evidence. We had some weird foot tracks at one location and some other things. But in my research in the state of West Virginia, I saw several things, and there's a lot of different wolf sightings, devil dogs, hellhounds. There's one called the snarly owl. I discovered another one called the white thing. And these are all wolf related. So I thought, and I know that, I was like, man, no one's ever written a book on any of this in West Virginia, and that's my home state. And so what I decided to do is do a book on it, and include my investigations and other people's reports and sightings in there, and give a little historical background on werewolves and dogmen and the snarly owl and all the cryptids of West Virginia, all these different wolf creatures and sightings. And this goes back for hundreds of years. Early European settlers brought with them their folklore from England, Ireland, Scotland. Everybody came over here, and they brought all that folklore and all their stories with them. And lo and behold, people are having sightings of these things for hundreds of years over here. So, so I decided to do a book on it, and I'm real proud of it. Ron Lanham, a great friend of mine, did some phenomenal art in the book. On the book cover and the book. Linda Harcum was the editor. Serenity Jenny published it through Starborn Illumination Publishing, and it's just another topic that focuses on a little piece of what I do, and I'm proud to have done a book on it, and I'm the first one ever in the state of West Virginia. So we got Ken Gerhard. Ken Gerhard wrote the foreword. He's a famous, real well-known cryptozoologist, and I got a lot of good contributors. Jody Cook from the North American Dogman Project contributed some to this. Dr. Raymond Keller, who's a PhD at West Virginia University, contributed some things to it. So, we got a lot of good contributors to it. It's just a good little book, It's a good little book.
Yeah. What's the reception been like in the book in West Virginia, I would say.
Oh, real good so far. It's only been out a couple of weeks, so I've
Yeah.
been promoting it for a while. But then we had a conundrum with the printing company, so we had to go back and they screwed up the cover and stuff. So we had to go back and redo some things, and now it
Really?
should be good to go now. But put it about a month and a half behind. But yeah, it's doing really well. Everybody that's read it loves it, so they couldn't put it down. So that's what you want to hear as an author, right? I read
Yeah.
it cover to
Yeah.
cover, so that's what you want to hear.
Yeah. And when was the last, we'll say, reported sighting of, like, say, a dogman or wolf over there?
Well, the last one I was involved with was about a year and a half ago. And it was from a prosecuting attorney. So that's a pretty high profile person
Yeah.
in the state. So, yeah, so that's the last one I was involved with. And but I've got several other reports recently that I did not investigate because it was just somebody driving down the interstate and they saw one run across the road, no
Mm.
evidence involved or anything like that. But all those little tidbits are pretty fascinating, especially when you interview the person and find out who they are and what their job is, and they have something to lose by going out on a limb and saying, "Man, I was going to work at 5:30 in the morning, and this huge wolf-like creature ran across the road on two legs right in front of me, and its head was taller
Yeah.
than my truck." And I'm like, "Holy cow!" That's what you want to hear. So and you go down there and check it out, can't find any evidence, but what did they see? Is it supernatural related or is it a physical creature? So those are some of the things we have to look into as investigators.
Mm. If you get
And
a
there's
phone
even,
call, how do you?
I was going to
Sorry,
say, there's
go
even
ahead.
in more recent times, on some of the extraterrestrial channels, like Gaia and stuff like that, there's these guys that have claimed they were these 20 backers, right? And then what that means is they were recruited as a child into this military program, and they actually are off planeted to other planets, and they're fighting various extraterrestrial races, right? Well, one of the races are a race of dogman like creatures that they say are 10 to 12 foot tall. They're part machine and part like um, flesh. So there's some kind of weird
Wow.
hybrid creature, and they say, they talk about how hard they are to kill, and the only thing they could kill them with were 50 caliber rifles and everything else, and other stuff. This did not stop them. So I find those stories really down the rabbit hole, but they're still fascinating. And if you do any research on this stuff, what I found fascinating was reports of dogman creatures on this planet, on planet Earth, go way back. Marco Polo and some very famous explorers were said to have encounters with these creatures, and that there was a whole race of them in these deep dark mountains. They hardly ever came out, but they came out and they did some trading with a particular king and all this stuff, and they would trade things for weapons. And when you start doing this stuff, it's like, whoa, there's all these connections there, even though it's
Mm.
it's kind of coincidental maybe, or there's really not much proof of it, but there are bits and pieces of truth in every story we hear. So
Yeah.
a famous piece, a famous person that we all know and heard about is Saint Christopher, right? So we all know who Saint
Yeah.
Christopher is. So lo and behold, there's a story about him that he was a dog. He was one of these dogman creatures, and then he became such, and he was known. He talked about he had eaten people and killed people, but he changed himself and he quit doing that, and God showed favor upon him and changed him into human form, and he became Saint Christopher. So that's a compelling story when you start
Mm.
looking at all this stuff outside the box, and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I actually found some ancient drawings and paintings of him as a dogman and as Saint Christopher. So it's really cool stuff. All that's in the book, and I mean, let's face it, it's way down the rabbit hole, but it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. How do you decide? How do you decide if somebody calls you to go to a location? And second part of that question is, what's the kind of worst call you ever got in terms of you got there and the person was just talking bullshit or just playing a
Uh,
joke or whatever?
yeah. Well, as you know, I was in law enforcement for many years. So when folks message me, and I think it's a legit case, on any case, really, I put them through a pretty extensive interview, sometimes 2 or 3 times before I ever go there. And I'll ask them the same questions over and over in a different way. So 9 times out of 10, I can catch them lying to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that saves me the trouble from spending my gas money and going out there and whatever. But other times I have been fooled. I'm human, get out there. One case, it was a haunting case, and this lady begged and pleaded for me to come, and she sounded very sincere, and she did well on the interview process. So, I loaded my gear up and planned it with her, and went out there, and I roll in, and there's all these cars at the house. So I'm like, this is weird. What's going on? So I knock on the door. They let me in, and the whole family's there, like 30 people, and I'm like, and they're drinking wine and all this stuff. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, well, we're going to watch you investigate this. I said, no, you're not. Why? I can't investigate with all these people in the house. So, I was like, I told her, I said, look,
So did
this
they
isn't a
want you
dog
like
and
as a
pony show.
party piece?
Yeah. Yeah. They
They
wanted to
want,
get,
yeah.
somebody on TV to their house, and they did, and I was the guy, and there you go. So, unfortunately, you run into that sometimes. So I had to turn around
Jesus.
and leave, so it was unfortunate, but it does happen. Other times, guys I used to investigate with a lot, we would do these things we called road trips to hell, where we would literally take off for a week or more and do 7, 5, 6, 7 locations, every single one, a new one every night. And we would used to tell people where we were going. Well, we had to stop doing that too, because people would show up to the location and want to talk to us and want to watch, so, it's just people. People are crazy, and they do what they do. So,
One of the big phenomenons I've seen recently, not only in America, but it's starting to become popular over here, is the Bigfoot.
yeah.
And what's your experiences with the whole Bigfoot thing? And is there more evidence of that, we'll say, than the Dogman?
Well, I think there's a lot more reports of Bigfoot sightings than there are dogmen or werewolves, but some of those could be
Yeah,
identifications too. So imagine you're in the woods at dark or something, and you see something that you thought was a Bigfoot, could have been a werewolf, or could have vice versa, right? So there's some identifications that happen there, but as a whole, yeah, Bigfoot's much more widely reported than the dogman type creatures, but in recent years, the Dogman thing has really gone up with all people reporting sightings of these things. So, is that some kind of weird uh, parallel thing that's coming in? Are these ETs? Are they real creatures? That we would equate to Hollywood werewolves? With the old European style, how it talks about, well, if you're bitten by a wolf or a werewolf, and you don't die, then you're going to turn into one too. It passes on some kind of weird virus to you. And there's so many ways, there's so many different accounts when it comes to wolves, werewolves, or dogmen. There's so many stories out there of how these things were created, what they do, and everything else. But I put a lot of that in the book so people can kind of discern the differences. One story was a particular king, and his sons and him killed a little boy, and they fed the boy to Zeus as an offering. Well, Zeus found out it was a child, and he got pissed, and he turned them into these werewolf type creatures and said, now you're going to eat flesh for eternity. you know so that's one story, a creation story, but it actually goes way back to Gilgamesh and everything else. There's so many different stories, and every culture has a little bit different one. But what's compelling them when you say that is almost every culture has a story of a werewolf type creature in it. So, you got to take a hard look at that when it comes to history and research of these things. And these things go back for thousands of years. If you look at the pyramids and some of the ancient Egyptian gods, Anubis has a dog-like head and a man body, and
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
couple of more in the Egyptian lore too. So, there's a lot of stuff that lines up to this stuff. So, also in modern day, right now today, there are what we call werewolf cults or wolf cults out there all around us. There's some that truly believe they are werewolves, and they do some weird stuff. Let me tell you, some believe that they have to go through this whole process to become a werewolf and everything else. And even the Nazis had a werewolf SS Waffen unit, you know, and it's all in the book, man. I touch on a little bit of all of it, so it's pretty cool stuff, you know.
Is there anywhere that you want to visit that would be of interest to you, saying going back to Bigfoot and Dogman and all that kind of stuff? Is there anywhere in the world outside the States that you want to go visit and experience?
Well, you know, obviously your European history is much more in depth, and there's a ton more of it than we have over here because it's just an older countries, you know. So yeah, of course, you know, I haven't made solid plans, but I'm definitely coming to Ireland for at least a week or two. And I'm going to do some castles over there and some of that and some of the mounds, some of the ancient mounds. Because that's where my people are from. I'm Irish, you know, Scotch, Irish, and a little bit of English and a little bit of German. So, but mainly
Yeah.
Irish. So yeah, I definitely got to go to the homeland. I want to go to our home village. I know where all that's at and everything. And there's a Spinks pub there. I want to come and have a Guinness there, and so you know, have a couple of pints at the old home pub. You know, why not?
Yeah.
So and do some investigating. Of course, there's numerous places I want to go. I'd love to go to Japan and go to the Suicide Forest, the Carpathian Mountains. I'd love to do that sometime because that stuff's rich in dogman and vampire lore and everything else, and all kinds of other strange, unexplained events go on at all these locations. So, yeah, of course, there's things I want to do that I haven't got to do yet. I'm a pretty busy guy, so you know, but you got to make time sometime. And I was supposed to come over there and then COVID hit. You know, I was going to come over there with a group of people. I was the tour guide, and I was going to do some investigating, and people were paying to come with me. So, but that all got knocked out because of COVID and some other issues. So, yeah, you know, lots to do on the list yet.
Yeah, we've got for a small country, as I'm sure you know, we've got a lot of creepy stories and
Oh
backgrounds and
yeah,
different things
yeah,
going on over here,
definitely,
like, you know.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah.
The suicide forest, wasn't that one of the was it Jake Paul or somebody went out there and shot a video, or one of those guys
There's
and
been
got
a
in trouble
few,
for it?
yeah. I mean, a few things shot by American company, well, by programs that were shown on American TV and whatnot. And of course, you know, the Japanese talk about it, they don't even go there because it's so bad, you know, and they find bodies there all the time. For some reason, people are compelled to go there and commit suicide, you know. And but Japan's a different culture than ours, you know. They get shamed very easily, and you know, they're taught that, you know, if you don't produce this and be this for your family, you're not a man, and or you're ashamed, and they go out and they think that's the end of the world for them, so they go out and kill themselves, or they lose all their money or everything they own, they go out and kill themselves. But you got to also think, well, you know, that's a perfect scenario if you believe in the Bible of a negative entity or demonic spirit influencing those people to kill themselves, because if you subscribe to that, then that's what these entities are. That's what their main job is, to seek and to destroy souls, right? Whether it's a Japanese entity by a different name, same entity by a different name, causing these folks to do this to themselves. So, you know, I love to just investigate and try to delve into those type of theories and see if I can match up any of that to that, you know. And that's what we're doing here at this location. We think that may be going on. It goes way back to Native American times here. There was warring tribes here. So we're looking into all that. We go back as far as we can in history, try to gather evidence based off our theories, right, on our various devices, ghost boxes, recorders, the whole nine, and see if any of that matches up. And if it does, it's pretty eye-opening, you know.
Could you explain to people that are watching this, will take what you're doing at the moment out of things, just your current day-to-day life, like what's your schedule like? Because you've got so much going on all the time, from
Okay,
conventions
well,
to
I usually get up between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., and that's because I'm up till 3 a.m. at least every night, either
yeah.
writing or investigating. I also have two kids. I have to juggle their schedules too, you know, whether it's a school function or whatever, doctor's appointments, the whole nine. Also with my girlfriend, who's a psychic medium and a holistic healer and everything. So we do stuff together all the time. And we actually live in 2 different states, so that's a whole nother conundrum. So we're either she's driving to me
Yeah.
or I'm driving to her. Most time it's her driving to me. But we have a store as well that we run in West Virginia
Yes.
called Dave Spinks World of Weird. So, between all this and that, we're juggling having the store open. We have to find folks that work for us, that volunteer to come in and when we're gone and take care of the store for us and whatnot. So it's a pretty busy life, so to speak. And, editing video, cutting video, working with the video guys and the editing guys and, working on all that. We're also right now in the process of creating our own network for streaming all of this type of stuff as well. The stuff that we're doing, these projects we're filming right now, like this place. So we can show the real side of the paranormal, not the TV side, because the TV side is good and fine and dandy, but it's more based off entertainment value than it is showing the real stuff, and that's unfortunate. But
Yeah.
that's what they're spending all the money; they get to make it how they want. So we want to show folks what we really do, all the people we help, and the parents that have lost children to suicides or other things. And when I say that, we're talking about kids that had they may have delved into the Ouija board or they may have been doing stuff and then all of a sudden they kill themselves. So we're thinking, okay, maybe there's a spiritual thing going on here or some kind of attachment so we go in and do that. And then her being a counselor as well. I mean, she was K through 12 counselor and everything else. So, we work with these families and try to help them have peace as well and closure and start the healing process as well. And if we don't get anything that matches up to it being some kind of supernatural situation that was going on, then she can help them the regular way too. So,
Yeah.
there's so many ways we're doing this stuff. It's crazy. And you don't see nothing like we're doing on TV, not even close, and we can get testimonial after testimonial after testimonial from folks we've helped, and then they'll back us 110%, say, yeah, they helped. This is what happened. They came in, did this and verified it, so that's what we're trying to do here and show folks. That's why we want our own network and people will be able to put the app right on their smart TV or their phone and watch what we're doing, and it's all professionally filmed and done. So a quality product.
Yeah, because exactly what you said about TV, like you guys for a TV show would shoot hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage, and they've got to fit it into, say, a 25-minute or 40-minute show by whatever 6 or 8, and then that's it. So yeah, TV can be very deceptive at times, and selective.
Well, yeah, and if they don't get any legit evidence, then guess what they're going to do? They're going to manufacture some for the show purposes because they can't justify going out to a place for a week and spending $100,000 on a production and they don't get anything, because it's all entertainment based. So I'm not saying they don't get some legit evidence sometimes because they do, but on the flip side of that, it's like a double-edged sword. It's good for the field. It's good for the to make it part of pop culture, which it is now, but it's also bad for the real boots on the ground people that really, spend their own time, money, and effort doing this stuff, trying to help people.
Yeah, I just seen on your Facebook before we came on, a haunting we will go. Do you want to tell people about that?
Super excited about that. So that's a friend of ours, Christopher Garantino. Excuse me. So he's known for the Montauk movie, and he had a couple of different shows on Travel Channel, Discovery Network. Very excellent filmmaker, and wants to show the real thing. That's why we're all about him. So he had us in an episode. I got Jen involved, her first TV debut, and that's coming out next year, 2023. A Haunting Will Go. It's kind of a different take on everything, and it's his take on things. And I'm proud to say we're going to be working on some future projects with him where I'm going to be an executive producer on a show with him, and I'll be in the show too, and so will Jen. And it's based off helping kids, and that's what we're all about, the kids. And that's the main thing, because the kids are the most innocent thing we have. It's very important to teach them not what to do, to not mess with certain things in the spiritual realm, because you can have some bad things happen to you. And, kind of coach them along if they're interested in the paranormal or if they're delving into stuff they shouldn't be delving in, because it can be dangerous. I'll be the first one to tell you, I've had an attachment from a location, a very dark location, notorious haunted location, and it's not fun. It is not fun. It's not fun in games. It's not thrill seeking. It can mess you up big time. So, you have to be, and this could happen anytime. It's not just because I go out and look for it. Odds are, you go out and seek this stuff, you're going to run into some very dark stuff, but it could still happen to anyone at any time for what reason we do not know. But different people get afflicted with spiritual attachments or whatever. We don't know why. It just happens. And our job is going and try to help them through that. And with clergy and with what we do as well. So, that's, I'm super excited about that up and coming deal. Got some really cool stuff brewing with the Weave House. I can't really talk about it because I'm under an NDA on it, but if it goes, it's going to be really cool. So, just sitting around waiting for other people to do their thing, and then I'll be a part of this and that and the other, and so will Jen. And we have a lot of people that support what we do, and it's just fun. It's fun. It's interesting. Like I told you before, I do what I do because it's my own personal journey. And to me, it's trying to answer three of man's greatest unanswered questions. What happens to us when we die? Are there unknown creatures walking among us? And are we alone in the universe? I've said that since the beginning. That's my main motivation for doing what I do. Not only that, but to answer some of my own questions, or try to answer, or try to get a piece of that puzzle. Now, whether I'm going to get a bunch of that, nobody knows, but the journey there, the history that you deal with at some of these cool locations, and just the journey getting there and being in the moment, it's fascinating stuff, and having experiences,
Yeah. And where can people go? Where's the best place for people to go just to follow what you're doing?
Well, you can get it. First off, you can get on my website. It's www.davespinksparanormalinvestigator.com. That has pages and links to all my stuff, all the TV shows I've been on, the documentary movies I'm in, my books, my biopics, all kinds of things. And then, it has links to the store. It has a page for the store. We don't have an online store yet, but we soon will. We'll offer a few of the items we have in the store, like T-shirts and different things. But then you can go to our Facebook too, which is Dave Spinks World of Weird and Synergy Springs. It's a combined page because our store is a dual store. We have paranormal merch, my books, and all kinds of stuff. And then we have Jen's side too, where we have an event center and her holistic healing center. And then we have crystals and everything you can think of in there: sage, crucifixes, the whole nine, paranormal equipment, gift stuff like shirts and my cookbook and Squatch hot monster sauce, and you name it, we've got it in there. DVDs, posters, pictures, artwork from various cryptid artists and haunting artists, and just a whole plethora of all kind of. I call it 8,000 our 8,000 square foot of paranormal and metaphysical madness, because that's basically what it is. And we have a ton of stuff in there, man. I mean, and then we're always changing inventory and adding inventory, so. It's a cool place. We do events there and everything.
Yeah, looking forward to see it all online as well. Listen, Dave, it was a pleasure to catch up with you again today, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me anytime, Maurice, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Have a good night.